Hello there, friends and neighbors. As a lot of you know, or have by now hopefully figured out, I read a lot of children's literature. And so it might surprise you to know that there is one piece of children's literature that I had not read before this year, and that is the piece of children's literature that I'm going to review today, Peter Pan by Jm Barrie. Now, let me defend myself a little bit here first. I have seen almost every visual adaptation of this story that has been made. Of course, I've seen the Disney animated version, I've seen the Mary Martin musical that was filmed for television, I've seen the 2003 live-action movie, I've seen Hook, I've seen Finding Neverland, I know the songs from the musical and I have the soundtrack and all that sort of thing, so I know the plot points pretty well. But until this year, I had not read the book, and because I wanted to do a books versus movies review, which yes, I will be doing a books versus movies review on Peter Pan, I wanted to read the book, and so I did. Peter Pan, of course, is the story of this eternally youthful young boy named Peter Pan. He lives in the world of Neverland, where he never has to grow up. And one day he flies into the lives of the Darling siblings, Wendy, Michael, and John, and he takes them off to Neverland, and they have all sorts of fun adventures. Now, like I said, I know the story pretty well, and so I wasn't expecting a lot of surprises as far as plot is concerned, and I didn't really get any, but what I did get were surprises by way of character development. There were two characters in particular that I found very interesting and very complex. One was Captain Hook, the bad guy, who is always portrayed as the bad guy and usually portrayed as kind of a comic bad guy. But Jm Barrie actually makes Captain Hook out to be kind of sympathetic in a way. I mean, he's still a pirate, he's still a bad guy, but he has some sympathy associated with him. We see this in the last chapters that he's in especially, where he becomes kind of obsessed with maintaining good form. And he doesn't understand how Peter Pan is able to maintain good form, and yet he has difficulty with it. And this thought haunts him so much that when he does enable Peter Pan to not maintain good form, that's when he decides, okay, I'm done, and he throws himself to the crock. Sorry, should I have said spoiler alert at the beginning of this? And the second character is, of course, Peter Pan himself. Jm Barrie really dives into the psychological drama of this character, the idea of being this eternally youthful child and never growing up. Most of the visual adaptations that I've seen portray Peter Pan as more of a hero, as the eternally youthful hero. Nothing really tragic about him, but Jm Barrie portrays him as more of a tragic character. The heroic elements are still there, and he definitely has a lot of virtues associated with his character, but there are also some pretty stark weaknesses. Obviously, he's incredibly cocky, and he's also really selfish. He thinks of himself almost exclusively. But that's not really something we mind, because he's also, again, a tragic character. He's every bit as tragic as a child who dies before reaching adulthood. And he's tragic for pretty much the same reasons. He's never going to become an adult. He's never going to grow up. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he's afraid to. But unlike other people who are afraid of growing up, Peter Pan actually has a choice, and he chooses to remain in Neverland, even though everyone around him chooses to eventually leave Neverland. This ensures that he's never going to form a meaningful relationship with really anybody, not Tinkerbell, not the Lost Boys, not even Wendy. But what's really tragic about this is that Peter Pan doesn't feel like he's missing anything by missing out on these relationships. He knows that there is something missing. Somewhere in his subconscious, he's aware that he's missing something, but he can never figure out what. And because taking the steps to figure out what would require running the risk of growing up, he's never going to take those steps. Childhood in this story is portrayed as something that is not inherently good or bad. We see the positive elements of childhood, we see the innocence, we see the fun-loving attitudes, we even see the desire for fairness, but we also see everything that is inherently selfish and inherently heartless, as Jm Barrie says, about childhood. But similarly, growing up is not entirely portrayed as something inherently good or bad. There are positive and negative elements to that as well. And the way that Jm Barrie tells the story and the way that he constructs the story allows us to see both the positive and negative elements of both and make our own judgments. So, there's a lot of stuff in this book, and certainly more than I can cover in just a 6.5-minute review. Fortunately, I will be doing a books versus movies review, and I will be allowed to delve more deeply into some of the more psychological elements of the story. But for now I will say this is an excellent book. It's got some great messages both for children and for adults, and I would encourage both children and adults to read it. On the worth meter, I would give this a worth owning new. And that does it for this book review. Until next time, this is Matt Guyon reminding you that even bloodthirsty pirates need mothers too.